Welcome back, everyone, where we've got the spicy thing of the week, in that MiHoYo have apparently offered a masterclass on how to lose a community, and then things got a little bit bonkers afterwards. Now, the first thing to check in on before we sort through the actual chaos is revenue, because Genshin Impact makes a hell of a lot of money, and the news is that it passed $2 billion of player spending in its first year, and that's just on the mobile version. Now, data from Sensor Tower is suggesting that it was the third biggest mobile game in the world in terms of revenue across iOS and Google Play. Did miss out on Honor of Kings and PUBG Mobile, which are both Tencent games, but there you go, that's a pretty damn good result. And as you would expect, China is one of its major markets, with 577 million earned on iOS in China alone. That's pretty damn massive. Now, taking China out of the running, Genshin Impact becomes the highest grossing mobile game in the world, though, because it does beat out Roblox and Pokemon Go. So, man, that gacha dollar is strong. You can see why they do gacha mechanics. I mean, a bit depressing, but that is just what it is. Now, this also does mean that it has basically maintained a lot of its launch momentum, which won't be a surprise for anybody who's followed it in a passing fashion like I have. They are constantly pumping out the content. There's a bunch of stuff there that's basically just always giving you reasons to come back, and they're doing a pretty, well, I mean, from their perspective, good job when it comes to doing banners and stuff for monetization. So yeah, it generated more than 1.02 billion during its first 6 months. Now it's over 2 billion. That basically just tells you have a lot of dedicated players who are just sticking with it. Not all of them, though, because there's quite a lot of Fury mad, isn't there?
Yes, it's really interesting. We'll get into why a little later, but basically, MiHoYo have been, they started off doing really, really well with their player base. Everyone was happy with Genshin Impact for the first, maybe first 6 months, maybe 8 months. Some problems started to crop up, but the news of it breaking $2 billion is contrasted with what has to be one of the worst sort of kind of fuck-ups in a way in game management in a while. And you might not understand it immediately, but it's basically an anniversary update because the game's a year old. And that usually in gacha, that's a time of massive celebration. That's when, all the companies just roll out the red carpet for players and go, you've been here for a year, have basically loads, have tons and tons of stuff.
Is it essentially, we've sucked you all dry on RNG, and we've done it to so much success that now we're going to give you your big freebies, your big bonus? Is it almost like you get fucked over by a casino, but you turn up to buy some drinks in a hotel room, and they're really expensive, and you're like, what the fuck? I just put all my money into you, and now you're upcharging me in those as well? Where, people don't really feel like perhaps you could say the unspoken contract is being observed.
Yeah, it's sort of like that, where, especially in comparison to other games, and that's where people are really starting to hit MiHoYo hard, where they're like this is awful. These are not what we expect in terms of the quantity. Why is it tied behind raffles? Why are there weird contest mechanics going on that's stopping us from having the stuff that we want?
Right.
Which, I think raffles and contest stuff is fine, but people are angry about them because they're, you've tied all of the rewards that we want, that we need, because we're gacha players, and that's, something. They need that stuff real bad, and they're not been given it. And, oh man. This all kind of coincides with a change in PR strategy from hiring a new person, which is something that's hard to kind of go into, but people really just were extremely unhappy, and that's when the review bombing started.
Okay.
And that review bombing has been completely, you've seen review bombs.
Yes.
But I don't think ever before has a review bomb actually had splash damage
this is
in
more
this
like
way.
a review nuke with Fallout. Exactly.
That's exactly it. So, obviously the game's rating, I think, on either Google Play or iOS dropped to 1.04, 1.4 out of 5, despite being, in the high 4s for a long time, because the game is quite literally, as a game, pretty good.
It is, yeah, it's great.
There's certainly issues cropped up over time as it's gotten bigger, but it's generally one of the better things, and there's a reason it's the highest grossing game outside of China. but the bombs went completely insane. Where Honkai Impact, which is another game they run, so fair enough. If you want to hit MiHoYo, you go review someone else, or you go review another game. Same with Tears of Themis, that's also theirs. But people were also leaving reviews on Arknights, not run by them, run by a Chinese company, Clash of Clans, Cookie Run Kingdom, Fate Grand Order, Epic 7, the new Punishing Grey Raven, which seems really good as far as gacha games go as well, and it's just been hit by the fallout. Dragalia Lost, which is the Nintendo one, and League of Legends Wild Rift.
Yeah.
And I also saw a post...
Riot have got to pay.
Yeah.
Riot have got to pay for this fucking injustice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, it's their fault.
Yeah, exactly. I also saw I think it was a Southeast Asian healthcare app also got hit by someone who was just really angry and gave a negative review for Genshin Impact on that app for some reason.
Cool.
So they basically completely lost their marbles and destroyed it. Obviously now MiHoYo have had to respond in some capacity, and they have. They first of all, the statement to Games Radar is them saying, the kind of stuff, we've been paying close attention to feedback, despite deleting feedback on forums before. I've been paying close attention to it. We've come up with celebrations, and here's rewards. Sorry, please stop destroying us. Here's the rewards, but that's taken the form of 4 free bundles, one coming in each day. I think the second went today, and it's a decent amount. It's 400 Primo Gems a day, so it is very much just, it almost feels like players have kind of fleeced them in a way. They're like, yeah, shit, just take the money.
Okay, so that's a total then of 1,600 Primo Gems. Yeah. My memory's not 100% perfect. What is that in dollars?
Yeah, 1,600 Primo Gems over the course of 4 days is about $15 at the kind of, if you were to buy 2,200, it would be $30. So it's about,
gotcha. Okay.
So it's about $20 in around that range in terms of pure value. But one of the other things that you kind of know this is a knee-jerk reaction is that there was a free glider skin that they had originally attached to a paid bundle for the anniversary concert, and they just kind of fired that in, went, shit, here you go, and said they'll reevaluate what they're putting in the actual concert bundle. So you can feel they've been completely, they've been overwhelmed. But it's been insane in terms of, obviously in, what's literally happened has been a pile of review bombing. But the sheer amount of community sentiment over people who are, planning to quit the game or want to quit the game or are, in true fandom ways losing their absolute minds over it. Because I even saw on Twitter earlier, people were posting things about, with all of this Genshin drama, make sure to take care of yourself and posting links to self-care articles and stuff like that.
Is this a bit like, as you brought it up to me in private before this, like those times where the K-pop fandom gets riled up about something and it's just going to be chaos for a while? That's kind of how it goes.
That is very much what it feels like. It feels like the fans are so close to this game and they love it so much, and they're so attached to it for a couple of different reasons that they've completely just basically ended up completely unhinged. Although obviously MiHoYo have honestly shit the bed in terms of dealing with this, because this is this isn't just all over the anniversary event. This is almost it all coming to a head, because ever since a couple of I think they replaced their PR lead recently, I think, with a new global PR manager, and I think they've had a bit of a different take. But a lot of the stuff that people loved MiHoYo for early in the day were like, oh, here's a survey, and then the next patch would have a load of, here's what we found in the survey for quality of life changes. We've introduced them. Here's some community concerns. Here's some feedback. And a load of really nice communication, the kind of stuff that you would laud any game developer for doing, which is really honest and open feedback. But there's this conception that now that they've reached the 2 billion mark, now that they've got literally billions of dollars, they're just like, the greed has outpaced their generosity. Because they've moved that way. Maybe some of that's down to them scaling, having more to deal with than they physically can, which makes sense. But it has been like a very tumultuous ride up until this explosion. But this explosion's what's kind of been noticed in the wider press, and that's why there's press coverage of it and stuff like that now.
Yeah, because I remember even in the last few weeks, you'd mentioned to me rumblings and rumblings and rumblings.
Yeah, yep.
And it's only now that's exploded. What were those rumblings?
Yeah, so there's been a couple of different things. Obviously, one of them is just that this sort of feeling the community's gotten over time of, we don't feel like we've been listened to as much. We don't feel like there's as much, care from the developers, which is what we got used to. And we're giving you literally billions. Why are you neglecting us now? So there's that But one of the things that really ticked, I think I say tipped me off rather, to how things are getting a bit crazy, is Kokomi released, which is a character that wasn't particularly strong. In fact, it was one of the weakest character releases they had in terms of, you know, capability, in terms of like the design potential for, you know, with other characters and raw damage. And that got so bad that I think that's the lowest banner release they ever had. Just basically no one paid for her because the idea was just no one wants her, despite, you know, whatever design work went in. Just no, this is shit. And then the Chinese fans were so annoyed that the voice actor for Kokomi, I can't remember her name now, but she had to restrict chat on her live stream because she was getting bullied when streaming. I don't even think she was streaming Genshin. I'm not sure what it was at the time, but, you know, completely outside of the capacity that she's anyway involved in, people were just sending hate at her for being, you know, the person who voices the character that they think isn't strong enough. And that's also occurred with it occurred with some other stuff with I think it was 2 English voice actors kind of had to come out and go, listen, this community's fucking wild. We can't deal with this anymore. I think it was Deluxe VA and I can't remember the other one, but it's just completely insane how the community are so attached to the game, and all of these little slights of where's the quality of life changes. This new content has more bugs than we're used to. Are you rushing it out? And MiHoYo were staying silent. And they've got this community that's been really, really riled up and are so used to extremely good stuff that they're now rabid dogs, and they will just destroy anything because they're so used to all of this positivity and all this movement. And now it's kind of turning on MiHoYo.
Wow.
Yep.
It's it's like I almost don't really know what to say. It seems to have all gotten rather extreme. But I suppose it's the sort of thing, too, where a lot of the players who are having above average engagement in the current issue, let's put it diplomatically, well, do they have above average spend in the game? Or is it the case where, you know, they get the subscription thing, so like they log in every single day? The thing that's effectively a subscription, you know. So they're effectively logging in every day. They're putting either really a lot of money or a lot of time into grinding. And that just creates this level of attachment to the game that is so deep. Like, yeah, even that example, they see a character that they really like. And they're very excited and they want to get this character and all that stuff. And then, well, you know, as you think about it, right? Like, they get a few bad wish pulls. They don't get their thing. Maybe they finally get the character after loads and loads of work. Then they use it and it's like, oh, this feels weak. This feels weak. And now I feel like I've just been, you know, fucked up and all of that stuff. And when you're paying for a character, you know, you're doing characters in the way that a gacha game does, well, shouldn't the developer ensure that it is strong enough to be worth it? And then, you know, all of that, you know, the spice flows forth.
Yeah,
and I guess, is this just, you know, having just like almost like an amplitude multiplier? Is that something you think just is naturally going to happen if a game is falling within the gacha genre?
Yep, that's the point I was going to move on to, talking about how this literally happens. Because obviously you can say, well, these community are all, you know, their behavior is unhinged. Clearly it's their problem, so let's not, you know, worry about it. But I think that's the wrong way to approach a problem. You can kind of laugh at it and go, well, whatever, it's not for me to think about, sure, whatever. Or in the MiHoYo side, go, well, yeah, no, they've done the players wrong. Fine, we'll move on. But I was just thinking about it in the sense of, how do you create, like, is this what they're paying? Is this the payment for getting all this money, for having all this engagement? And I think that's what my answer is, because I looked at the character charts for the revenue from specific banners, because that's tracked, thankfully, by in the China market, at least it's tracked. So one of the most recent characters, Raiden Shogun, earned $33 million just in China with that banner.
Damn.
Literally 33 million people. And obviously that character was extremely strong, extremely hyped up over time. People? 33 million US dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that 33 million comes from people really liking the character's aesthetic, really liking the character's culture, really liking the character's gameplay strength. And there's maybe something to be said for comparing revenue versus actual in-game strength. which is kind of a thing because I know when every time they've broken a record, it's been because the character's been stronger than before.
I remember even Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War did that. There was it was like the little rapid fire pistol, and all I remember is that you could, was it the Diamatti? And it like basically there was an unlock that was like really, really far down. You'd have to grind the fuck out of the Diamatti to get it. Or you could akimbo them with a few like attachments or whatever. And it was just, look at person, dead. And it was so overpowered, right? Yeah. And whenever it launched, there was I think it was like, was it Anime Girls? I think was like the skin.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that version that you got with the skin, of course, had a bunch of those things unlocked already, saving you loads and loads and loads of grinding. So in a way, that was sneakily them just having the overpowered gun of the day, then doing a bundle, and then of course after the bundle has raked in a whole bunch of early money, they nerf the gun to be balanced after they've made off like thieves.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's just the sort of thing. What stuns me in a way, right? Most people, I mean, just about everybody knows the gacha business model is inherently exploitative.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you cannot say that, I mean, unless you want to have some like PvP components, but many gacha games do have PvP components. But you can't have an issue with FIFA Ultimate Team and then just like give Genshin a free pass.
Yeah.
Just because Genshin is a really, really, really good video game with really nicely designed characters and all those things that I actually do quite like. And if there was a $70, Genshin Impact, just one purchase edition, I would absolutely wholeheartedly recommend that just about everybody gets it because it would be incredible for that. But if you just think about it, right, they managed to pull off the business model that outside of the gacha community, just about everybody kind of thinks is evil and hates. They did that because their game was so damn good. But then that just kind of means that like they've harnessed this dangerous fire, and you can see as soon as it spills out, it causes a lot of damage.
Yeah. So I have a fun sort of comparison to make here because I was playing Nier Replicant lately, and that game has a lot of weapon stories that usually tell little folk tales that are written for specific purposes. And one reminded me of basically what MiHoYo have created by creating the best, the highest grossing game of all time almost. And having this extremely powerful, extremely involved culture all across the whole thing. Having, if people are gonna spend $33 million in China alone for a character because the character's strong or because the character, is the aesthetic they want, because it was Raiden Shogun, the leader of the Inazuma, the Japanese stuff. She manifests a katana from between her chest, so it's, people strike zones, absolutely.
Well, I mean, hey, where are you going to put the katana if you don't have I've forgotten the name. A sheath?
Sheath, yeah. Yeah, so there's a price to pay for all of that, and the anecdote is it's long, so I will sort of boil it down. But effectively, there was a general that was violent and loved war. He trained his army in that way. They became violent for violence, for the sake of violence, and they didn't care for conquest, they cared for murder. So they just went all across the land, destroying everything, killing everyone. Wasn't just, we've defeated the military, let's move on. It was, they kill every single citizen in the city. And they did this across the entire world, just killing and killing and killing, and being trained and honed for that one instinct, the one instinct to kill. And by the time they returned home, they had no notion of what home was. They had no notion of war. All they knew was violence. So as soon as they got home, they killed their country people, they killed their king, they killed their queen, they killed the very general and the general's daughter without a thought for what they were actually doing, because that's just what they were. That's what they'd become. That's the sole instinct. And I think this is the problem with gacha games, because you replace violence with primogems, and now you've got the story, but for the gacha community, for the Genshin Impact community, where they have so perfectly wound everything and completely got this massive community and player base so super hyper honed in on wanting rewards, because that's why they'll give the money. That's why they'll give money hand over foot. That's why they will spend their entire days, their entire weeks, helping that community, adding to it, adding cultural value, creating more value for it all, and making this massive snowball of culture that also they're taking money from at a massive rate. And now, as soon as they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have enough rewards for you today, then they just turn on the master. And that's exactly what's happened here. And I think overall, I think it's a warning to any developer who focuses on extrinsic rewards too much.
Yes.
In that you have to be mindful of the culture you're creating in your development, in your community management, because they've effectively just created a complete and utter wrecking ball.
Look, that is a principle, like we can see how right now it applies to gacha games.
Yep.
I mean, many of the people watching this video, because the other things we do will be from World of Warcraft. You can see how some of that could even apply to World of Warcraft. You can see it applied to ARPGs. You can see it applied to other MMOs. Extrinsic rewards have got to be treated with care. I suppose so much more so when they are such a core part of monetization, because that's going to make everything real fucking extreme.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, in a way it kind of should, because it is people spending their real money, and you have got to treat that shit with respect. So there you go. I think a cautionary tale.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, a cautionary tale, an interesting dive into the... I was going to say dive into the mines. I don't know what's being mined. An interesting dive anyway. We'll see how this goes. And I suppose it'll be interesting to see, will they be able to pull the community back? Because surely, if we're going to go by your analogy, it's going to take a lot of primo gems to make up for this wrong. So then it's the sort of things, if it takes a lot of primo gems to make up for this wrong, but they still want to get the money that they want to get, then they're going to need to go. I mean, if they just inflate the primo gem economy that much, you know, giving, what, 15, 20 bucks to every single player, basically, well, then they're going to want to extract that free money that they gave, buy more banners and things, and you have to wonder, well, are they just going to take a short-term hit, or are they really going to, you know, try to do more banners, more events, more stuff? It'll be interesting to see how they do it, and if that review score ends up going up.
I feel like I think a lot of people in the community are saying this is the beginning of the end for Genshin Impact, and as far as quality of games concerned, you'd be hard pressed to understand why, but that's the danger here.
From from the perspective of somebody, you know, if I was playing Genshin all the time, I would consider getting like the, you know, the little, like, you do your thing every day, you get 4 or however many primo gems.
Yeah, the blessing of the Welkin Moon.
Yes. Like maybe I would do that. But you know, I wouldn't really do anything else, because that's just not the kind of player I am. I'm not a gacha game player. I'd be playing Genshin because it's a really good game, not because of the gacha and collection aspects. So it's like, from that perspective, you know, I would play Genshin having zero idea that any of this was going on and think, well, this is still a magnificent game.
Yep.
I guess it just goes to show that opinions can differ, and in this case it's rough for them, because that's the opinions of the people who, you know, give them their money. So there we go. Let us know what you think, though. Are you playing Genshin blissfully unaware of all of this, or you know, are you taking part? Let us know what you think and why. You know, if you feel like you've really been pissed off and hard done by, like, let us know, because the more that we can learn, the better. So thank you for watching. What an interesting situation, and we will catch you in the next video.